Hello and welcome to the new video. In this video we're mainly gonna be focusing how I'm gonna be using Mageblood in my build, and that's gonna be Forbidden Rite cast on crit. If this is your first time seeing this video, I'm gonna leave a link in the description to a full build guide video so you can check this out. So if this is your first time experiencing with Mageblood, maybe you gathered your currency, or you can afford, like me, the free flask versions, you might be wondering how exactly the Mageblood works. So the Mageblood works by simply allowing you to have free flask permanently used. The downside of the Mageblood, if you have like free flask like me, you no longer can use any utility flask such as this diamond. If I try to press it, it won't work because the Mageblood blocks it. Therefore, you have to use at least 2 uniques, or if you can buy yourself a 4 flask Mageblood, you can only use 1 unique flask. So you're probably wondering, how do we create the flask? What are the best flasks and what flasks should you use? This really depends on two situations that you have. If you have the free flask version as me, then you're gonna be using different flask. But if you can afford the 4 flask version, then you're gonna be using a totally different flask. So I'm gonna split this section into 2 parts. So how do we create our Mageblood flask? The simplest way it would be just to buy them from the trade. But in case you have a lot of enkindling orbs, you can create them yourself by simply spamming enkindling orbs on one of the white flasks, such as for example this topaz. And you wanna spam it until you get the desirable increase effect as your implicit modifier. Then you want to spam alts until you get the prefix increase effect. The duration, we don't really care about it because our Mageblood will always keep our flask active. So once you got your implicit modifier and you have your prefix, there's a couple suffixes that we are looking for. The first one, we're looking for reduced cures effect. This would pretty much give us a lot of quality of life, such as temp chains would not work for us and other cures. Then we want to craft ourselves from our crafting bench reduce mana cost. This will significantly and help you out reducing the cost of your cast on crit Forbidden Rite skill to almost to 0. So that's like a huge benefit. The second, the last one in my example is increase armor. So those 3 flasks that I'll be using. Since my Mageblood can only use 3 utility flasks, I have to use 2 unique flasks, and one of the flasks is a Dying Sun. This is a great flask for our build, and the second one is a Bottle of Fate. Another thing I can mention, if you're not able to work around either using a Sapphire or a Topaz flask as your resistance one, you could swap this flask for a Bismuth, but I don't necessarily do like the Bismuth, as only it provides us with significant amount of resistance. Compare it to our Sapphire flask that provides us with just huge chunk of cold damage, but it gives us a very important stat such as 20% less cold damage taken. And our Mageblood with all those increased effects will almost double it, so we're gonna take very little damage if we get hit by any such as like an Ice Nova from a Strongbox and other cold hits. In this section of the video I will mainly focus what happens if you can buy yourself a Mageblood that can use 4 utility flasks. We're still gonna be sticking with those 3 that I did mention in the free flask version, but what happened with the 4 flask one, we're going to be replacing Bottle of Fate with a Topaz flask. This opens us to having additional suffix. And what kind of suffix should you craft? There are only 2 possibilities, so I would say. Number 1, you're crafting yourself additional resistance if you're crit capped. If you're not crit capped, then I will go with the critical during the flask effect. And we're still sticking with the Dying Sun. So that would be our setup for flask. I just want to quickly mention, please do not use a silver flask for this build. It will give you too much increased attack speed, as you can apply the enchantment for the increased effect, and you're gonna run into the issue that you're gonna have too much attack speed, not enough cooldown reduction, and that's just gonna break your trigger rate. So stay away as much as possible from this flask. Will I be creating a melding version of this build? Only if I manage to get myself a 4 flask version of the Mageblood, because with the free ones there's too many problems. So you have to like check out on the stream what I'm doing, but for now I'm not gonna be focusing on the melding. In this section of the video we mainly focus what kind of changes did I do to my gear and jewels and jewelry and other stuff like that. So the first major change that I did is for the watcher side. I'm still keeping the discipline mode, but now I have you gain flash charge when you deal critical strike but are affected by the precision. This really helps me out upkeeping my bottle fate and my dying sun on the rares. I would say they are very often for me to be able to use them on the rares. Definitely you should try to get yourself a watcher side like that. So what kind of gear changes did I do? The first thing that I did is I did replace my claw because I no longer need the mana gain and hit, and we're simply following the same thing. Spells, attack speed, crit chance, crit multi, but now I have a +1 to chaos skill gems, and hits cannot be evaded no matter what because we don't want to play with the accuracy. The helmet is the same, the shield is the same. Now I'm using a 3 flask Mageblood, and then I have my gloves. For my gloves I would recommend using something like a high ES, something like a fractured, maybe dexterity, strength, and I would recommend having yourself an open suffix so you can craft yourself from your bench, increase attack speed between the combination goes from 7 to 12. This will easily help you out manage how much increased attack speed total you need, because every situation is gonna be a different. So I need 10, but you might need 7, so that's gonna really help you out. I did get a question on the live stream if the hands of the High Templar are good for this build. You can use them, but I think they're a bait, as you're gonna be struggling with the stats, with the speed and other things, and you're losing the implicit such as unnerve and withering expire slower. So I would generally stick with a good trusty rare pair of gloves. For my lower reef, I'm still using the lower reef 3 green 3 blues, and now I have an iron will. I upgraded myself to ashes. I went with the maximum quality on the skill gems because I need that. Increased reservation is good. You can get a bit lower because I still have a 45 mana uncapped, so you can get a bit cheaper one. Then I'm running 2 synthesized base ring, and one of them is gonna be you get an arcane surge when you hit with spells. Since we're casting a lot of forbidden rites, you're gonna be constantly having your arcane surge up all the time. And how do you want to approach crafting this ring is simply by going to the essence and with scorn, and you want to spam essence of scorn until you can get something decent for you, such as like maybe some stats. Then you're gonna get the essence one that's gonna give you the global crit multi, and mandatory you want to look for the open prefix. But you should be looking for something like maybe a T1 energy shield or maybe resistance that you're missing. So this process is gonna be taking you a while because you're gonna be spamming your essence of scorn until you get something decent. The second ring is still a synthesized base, -3 total mana cost, and I was spamming it with the essence of scorn as well, and I got this like a pretty lucky and decent ring because I got a good strength, I got a T1 energy shield, and I got myself a lightning resistance. I got the essence mod and had an open prefix for the non-channeling. I'm like, yeah, sweet, that's a good ring. But for your boots, you're gonna be getting yourself an elevated cooldown and a tailwind. You can go with elevated tailwind, but that's not necessary, as you can play around with your gloves with that have increased attack speed, and you can make up for that increase effect of tailwind on you. I mean more of like lack of it if you're just gonna go strictly with the tailwind. But the elevated cooldown reduction is highly recommended because you might run into the issues with the cooldown reduction. And then you want to take your boots and you want to go to the lab and you want to craft on them reduce mana cost of skills, more like you want to hit the lucky enchantment. It's not that difficult to get that enchantment. I would say something between 10 to 20 runs on a good lab day you will get it, or you might be even lucky and get it by the first time. The next major change that I did, you see the currency item on your screen. If you buy that currency item, you can apply a keystone on your relic. This will relax the buying of your Skin of the Lords. So I went with the Iron Will. This will give me a little bit of a damage. There's a full lengthy comment in the build guide. If you look on the comment section, is a pinned comment done by the Gabriel, because he was the person who informed me about the currency item. So take advantage of the currency item as long as you're playing the Sanctum League. So what kind of gem changes did I do to my build? I linked myself enhance with my Assassin's Mark. This is just gonna give me a little bit more damage. The next thing I did, I upgraded my Tempest Shield to Divergent one. With the combination of Ashes of the Star, this lets me hit my block cap much faster and I don't have to spend this 1 point over here. Next one, since still I'm using the Ashes, this gives me a little bit increased mana reservation. I can squeeze a Defiance banner because of that. Otherwise, the games are pretty much the same. The other thing that you can do, if you're able to squeeze, or you have 4 flask Mageblood, and you can work around your resistance, you could swap your Purity of Elements and get yourself a Zealotry. But then you're gonna run into this problem. The Tempest Shields offers you immune to shock, but you still have to deal with the Ignite, Freeze and Chill. With the Ignite we can use the Soul of Aberrant, that's gonna help you out. For the Freeze we can use Soul of Brine King, and this is gonna give you 100% that you cannot be frozen and 50% effect of chill on you. You would have to get yourself somewhere the remaining 50% of chill. The only solution I would say for the lacking of the 50% chill would be something like a corrupted jewel that would have like a corrupted blood, and it would have some kind of chill reduction over here. So that's might be a possibility if you want to just increase your damage even more. Even after watching the video you still have some questions, you can check me out on my live stream. I do stream on YouTube, so whenever I go live you can always ask some questions that I didn't answer them in the video. Thank you for watching, I will see you later in my next video.